Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of CUBED, the Marvel Snap podcast, and welcome to episode 5. So
Woo.
I am joined here with Bok Choy, aka Dakota, and DarkHelmit, aka Dawn, which I will be referring to because I don't really call them DarkHelmit or Bok Choy in in real life. So how you guys doing today?
Man, it's
Doing
another
pretty
beautiful
good.
day, just hanging out and getting to spend some time to talk about Marvel with some great guys.
Yep. About the same. Just cleaning the house, getting things ready for the work week. Yeah, just errand day, man. Sunday.
Okay. It is nice to see you guys because I have not been to work. I've been on vacation for a week, but it is actually really nice to see you guys at the end of the week. And it's nice to start the week off kind of like this. So
hmm
you get to talk Marvel Snap before we're bombarded with work.
It's good time.
Talk about Marvel Snap before we talk about Marvel Snap.
All right. So to start us off, I'm gonna start us off with an icebreaker conversation. We kind of do this every week. We just I kind of never put a name to it, but yeah, let's do this icebreaker. Which the topic of today is DC versus Marvel. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because comic connoisseurs have always, tipped the scale on like, oh, DC, Marvel, which one is better, right? For myself, I just want to say I'm here for good story. And I feel like if DC can put it out or Marvel can put it out, it makes the consumer, which is, us, happy, right? So it could be whether or not if it was the animated series, it could be live action, it could be the comics, it could be the action figures or whatever. So go into a little bit of everything on what you prefer, DC versus Marvel, and elaborate as much as you can. Let's start with you, Dakota.
All right. So this is a really hard one because I think that as a kid, more than anything, I was DC. Like Justice League Unlimited, I watched that 10 times over versus like anything Marvel had put out at the time. Going into 2009, right, when we started getting our live actions. Before that, we had Dark Knight and all that good stuff. Dark Knight, I think, came out in, was it 2006? There's
Let
a,
me fact check
you
that. Go
should look
ahead.
up and see. Yeah, let me fact check. Or you should fact check. Uh,
Uh,
basically, I think from 2009 on, I definitely changed gears from DC to Marvel, specifically based off of the movies. Comics, I love both equally. I cannot be one to say, oh, I like Marvel over DC because they both have such a unique. I feel like DC is so dark in its stories, and it has characters that are relatable and also like there's the god characters. Like there's so many powerful characters in Marvel. Yeah, I'm sorry, DC versus Marvel that it's looked at like Superman is like the Goku of the universe. Like he's just unstoppable. He's this monster, and you look up to him in that way. Then you got your Batman. Dude, Batman, especially you want to talk about like just the animated series, that was something I dove into hardcore. I loved it. Anything related to DC, the top characters, I was really involved. Just loved, anytime there was any content, I was all into it. But now moving into it, I think Marvel has taken over for me, and MCU is a big part of that. The movies were awesome all the way during the Infinity Saga, moving out. Not so much now, but the beginning of that, oh my gosh. Now I'm kind of just here, loving all comics again, loving all different, DC versus Marvel. It's hard to definitively say one over the other for me because they had different parts growing up.
So Dark Knight was in '08.
Oh, eight. Okay, so I was off by 2 years.
2 years, yeah, yeah.
But yeah. The Dark Knight was a solid time for man. No one can forget that. You're in theaters watching that. You're just like, oh my gosh, Heath Ledger. Ooh, it was such an awesome take of Batman, and yeah, I think that has a special place in my heart. So It's hard. It's hard for DC. Favorite character probably is gonna have to be Batman, just because the comics and everything that he's in, and not even to mention, bro, the Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight, those games. Oh, they're so good, dude. I'm telling you, like just playing those games, I got good memories with that too. But then Marvel 2, oh my gosh, dude, the Spider-Man, the OG Spider-Man games, the 1 and 2. One was hilarious because that was the game you run around. You don't even have a freaking building you're hitting on. He's literally just doing this, just flying through the air, which was a crack up. But man, Spider-Man 2, playing that game, oh my gosh. My uncle had this big TV. So whenever I was over at their house, he would throw it on there on the PlayStation 2. And I have great memories just zipping through the city. Anytime you had to deliver the pizza, they always played that. And it's like I still, have these memories pop up. When I actually went to New York, when I was with the guy that was like driving us around. He was actually our manager. Every time he passed by, I go, "Oh, this is where you fight Dr. Octopus." And Spider-Man 2, he was like, "Oh, shut up." So it was like such an important thing in my life. I love the Marvel Universe DC. Like I didn't realize until we're having this conversation how much of an influence it had growing up. But man, I love both. It's hard to really say which one it is.
All right. So, how about yourself, Don? I know you grew up with a lot of this stuff. So, how's your experience with DC versus Marvel and the fandom behind that?
Man, I'd have to say that they are very, very close to each other. But I do give DC a slight edge. So when we're talking about like classic animated series, right? You brought up Justice League Unlimited. Great, great series, right? But when I think about, the original X-Men series, like to me, that's kind of a wash, right? Batman the animated series considered to be one of the greatest like TV shows of all time as far as like animated. But to me, that's kind of washed out by the Spider-Man animated series. So for that reason, that's kind of like, the same. Movies wise, right? We've had great movies, Dark Knight. We've had bad movies, Birds of Prey, right? Like we've had these kind of back and forth like movies that are good. Same thing with MCU, like Infinity Saga, amazing. But as of late, we've had some really kind of conflicts going on. Let's see what else. Games, like you mentioned, kind of similar, right? You have Spider-Man, you have the Arkham series. Like those are really comparable, in my opinion, of really great games. Where DC gives me just a little bit more is the animated movies. The animated movies that they make are just amazing, right? And that's the only reason I give it a slight more edge. I relate more to Marvel heroes in the sense that like they have more character flaws, right? You tend to see someone like Superman. He's like, okay, I'm amazing. I do all this stuff, right? You see Batman. He's just rich philanthropist. Yeah, his parents died, but that's about the only negative you can say about him. But then you go to the other side. You go to Marvel, right? Every single character, right, has something to them that's great, or something that's a major flaw, right? You have people like Tony Stark, who is egotistical, person, right? You have Hulk, who has just his whole alternative personality. Character-wise, I relate more, but I give DC just that slight edge because of the animated movies.
Okay. All right. So let me start with comics. I will say that I grew up mainly reading a lot of the DC comics. And, I think we actually went over, like when comics came about and the heroes were introduced and whatnot. And it was like the first one was, do you guys remember that? The first superhero introduced ever?
Oh shoot! Was it like something Panther or
It's like
he was purple?
Dick
What the
Tracy.
heck was his name?
Yeah. What was it, Don?
Dick Tracy.
Was that the actor? Oh,
No,
okay.
no.
I was just yeah, but he
Danny DeVito.
yeah, but I do recall his costume was like purple and whatnot, and so I don't think that belonged to any comic.
Phantom.
The Phantom.
The Phantom. Okay, cool. So I don't think that came about with any of the major comic entities. I don't think it's Marvel or DC. But the very first superhero that was related to any of those was Superman. And then it came Batman. And then the very first Marvel one came probably like a couple years later, which was Captain America, if I'm not mistaken. And I think because of that, I wasn't alive during any of that, but I think at that point, the comics that were becoming more relevant were DC because of the the creation of it, right? So people saw Superman. And Superman was big, right? When Superman came out, he came out during, I believe, World War One, I think. Or I don't fact check me. I know that's wrong.
Fact checking you right now, Jamie.
So I think
Let's just pretend the internet doesn't work. It's fine.
Yeah. So he came out, or if I'm not mistaken, they pushed him more towards because of the war, right? There was a lot of war stories related to what was going on at the time, and it was related to Superman. So when DC was around, I think they were the big entity of comics, and Marvel was playing catch up, right? And you could also tell by what Marvel did back in. Okay, you look like you have information.
Huh?
You look like
I'm not saying it like I'm not doing the face like haha you're wrong, but it was 1938. That's all. Sorry, continue.
Okay, so 1938 is when the Superman came out. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the First World War was 1914. So probably World War II is one. Yeah, it was Second World War. That is. So one of the World Wars. Thank you for that.
One of them. That's for sure. Yeah,
thank you.
You're in the right ballpark.
So the thing with comics is they pushed an agenda, right? They pushed a message at that time. So I think that's why DC became so big. And you could see it in the fact where I don't think DC ever went bankrupt, right? Marvel did. Do you guys know?
I don't think they ever went bankrupt.
Okay. But I know Marvel did, and that's why they had to sell a lot of their characters, which, we're having a problem with that right now, right? Or even when the MCU started, it caused a lot of problems on, what characters can I use and what words can't I use in this universe? And it really, you could see that in like, what was that movie with the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver? It was Age of Ultron, where they called him enhanced humans, which technically in the comics, they're mutants, but they couldn't use the word mutant. So they had to call them enhanced individuals. And, all right. Yeah, you have more. That giggle makes me think you have more information.
No, I'm just listening to you. I'm like, yeah, it just makes me laugh. The enhanced humans. Like,
that's okay.
So that mutant wasn't okay to say, but enhanced humans. Enhance.
And that's the thing. Mutant. When the comics first started, mutant was supposed to be a derogatory term, right? Because they related it to, if I'm not mistaken, like African American rights, on how they were getting singled out, and
it was civil rights.
Civil rights.
So it wasn't necessarily African American, but it was civil rights, which is similar.
Okay, it's similar. Okay, so it's along the same. Okay, so yeah, it related to civil rights, and like everyone just wanted to be treated equally, right? But so it did push similar agendas, which with the agendas now, I'm gonna go into the MCU or the cinematic with DC versus Marvel. With them pushing agendas now, I think DC does a really good job staying out of it. Marvel, I think because they're Disney, they're like, okay, we want to make sure everybody is included. Mm-hmm. And I get that. Mm-hmm. I really get that. But with the people that, even, I'm not even talking about me because I'm just a fan of the entirety of comics. But the fanboys, the ones that are like, you know, diehard, they see this as kind of muddling. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's not staying true to what the creators did with the comics, right? So it's kind of straying from the path of what these characters were, which is it was to escape reality, right? Yeah, they pushed agendas, but then after the World War, it kind of went into their own worlds where it's just like they had problems that weren't real life problems. It was just problems that they made up, and it was telling stories, and it wasn't trying to push an agenda. So I kind of like those story driven comics that were more, you know, we create a random problem, which could be a bad guy, has nothing to do with what's going on in the world, and then that's it. Because I think these things are stories that are made to take us away from reality.
Mm-hmm.
But when you kind of face the same problems in the, let's say, cinematic universes, if they relate the cinematic universes to problems going on in our world, the downside for that is if they come up with the solution in the cinematic universe, whether it be violent or non-violent, then it kind of pushes people to be like, okay, maybe this is the way to solve it, right? Which the real world doesn't work that way. We know that. You know, government doesn't work at a fast pace. It doesn't get it done overnight, which is unfortunate because, you know, everybody has to take a stance on something, right? So, that's kind of a long-winded way to say that DC was probably my choice in comics, especially around the New 52 when they combined all the universes and whatnot and did a like Marvel, Battle World kind of thing with DC, where only some of them survived. So with the cinematic universe, DC has you can tell DC has fallen really behind. Yeah. So Marvel has I don't know how they did it, but they did. You know, they made it what it is today, and people expect so much from them, right? I guess that's the good thing about a DC movie is nobody's expecting shit. Because I mean, after the Dark Knight movies, you're just like, okay, you know, well, we can't put Christian Bale in a Justice League movie because we made him too human, right? All his villains were too human. Where a lot of the and you mentioned this earlier, Don, about the problems that the DC characters face versus the problems that the Marvel characters face. I think the DC universe created gods, where as Marvel created flawed humans, right? Well, humans, which are flawed, that were given powers and they have to cope being human alongside of these powers, right? A lot of DC characters are either extraterrestrial or they're from like Atlantis or a fake world like the Mascara, you know? So these are literal gods on Earth that are like having problems like, oh, I'm too strong, or, you know? Like, you know, Superman's who does he fight when he dies?
Doomsday.
Doomsday.
There you go, Doomsday. Like the way he solved beating Doomsday was like, oh, I just gotta stop holding back. Like, really, his problem was holding back. You know, because of course Superman, good-hearted guy, doesn't want to kill anybody. But that was his issue, just taking off his limiter, right? Where like as like you mentioned, Iron Man, he had to he's egotistical, but on top of that, he had a drinking problem. I mean, you know, substance abuse. And so basically this is something that has basically the world. There are people with substance abuse, but you also gotta, he has to factor in, oh shoot, I'm really smart, a smart individual that could probably kill the entire world, right? Because he's a weapons manufacturer. He creates weapons. He created probably he's like Batman, but in a way better, because like he makes himself enhanced, whereas Batman creates gadgets, but he's not wearing a suit, right? So, well, I mean, his suit protects him from what? Guns and knives? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
It's like a ballistic thing that he has going on. It's to the most part, it'll help him. It's like Kevlar lining with whatever in most of the fights that he has. Unless he's fighting someone big, he usually keeps his suit for people.
Yeah. And he's more street oriented. So Iron Man, he gets shot with missiles and whatnot and survives. So it's very, the playing field is kind of not fair, but I just give it to Batman because he basically, like I said, he's playing against these super powered gods, and he's a lowly. He's a human, has nothing except. People say he has enhanced strength, right? He has enhanced, but not like superhuman. It's just like he works out a lot.
Yeah. It's just that he's really athletic and able to do more. So it's nothing too extreme. He's just Olympian.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's like Olympian status. And what would you say, Don?
As he must work out.
Yeah. So basically, like, he's just an Olympian that doesn't, he doesn't want to be in the limelight. Like, I don't know. It's just funny. Like, you would think somebody that's that strong, that agile, that, is not considered superhuman, because he could probably do the best almost at everything in strength categories, in I don't know, in agile categories, and still fit in a nice suit, he's able to hide his physique in order to be like, oh yeah, that can't be Batman.
Mm-hmm. Dude, that reminds me of the Jimmy Kimmel skit where it's like Batman and Superman are in the room. It's actually the actors that played him, Ben Affleck and Henry, what's his Cavill?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And he walks by and he goes, hey, you look like Superman. Yeah, I think and that's Batman. And he's like, whoa, you don't know me. Get out of here. He's like, just the face alone. I love that crap. It's so funny.
Yeah, I find it so funny how they wrote that into, like, these gods are having trouble fitting, or like, they could hide themselves in plain sight because nobody expects them. But you cover up and you just like show like the bottom part of them, or you give Superman glasses. You're like, yo, that's Clark Kent. Yo, that's Batman. Yeah. So it's funny, with that couldn't, they had to do that. It had to be something in the past, because you can't do that now with all the social media going around. Everybody would piece everything together. Now, going to cinematic universe, I would have to give it to Marvel, of course, because of what they're doing right now, and it's not looking good for Marvel right now, even though but they still have a leg up on DC, just because the casting, right? The casting is amazing. DC had so many chances to start this, and they kind of rushed it, where they just created Justice League out of nowhere to like combat MCU, where it's just like I feel like they're thinking of it like, oh, we're losing the race, where if you tell a good story, it's gonna win no matter what.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm kind of with a lot of the majority. I think there's only a minority that are like, oh yeah, Marvel is best and I'll never see anything DC, or vice versa. I'm DC, I'll never see anything Marvel. I think a lot of us just want good stories. So I think, if DC gets their shit together and just like get a writer that can take us somewhere, right? take us on a journey because we just want to be entertained, to forget reality in the moment. And that's why we go to movies, right? And it's funny because a lot of documentary movies do well too, like reliving what's gone on in the past. And you know the outcome, like Oppenheimer, right? I just watched that. Have you guys seen it?
Not yet, no.
Not yet. Don, you seen it? Okay.
No.
So yeah, I mean, one of the best movies. It's a Christopher Nolan movie, if I'm not mistaken. Christopher Nolan does great work. But I feel like those types of movies, it does really well but we know the endings. So that's the only thing. Like, we go into a movie of historic events and we know the ending, how it's going to turn out. And we're like, no, please don't. But people that actually do tell stories that we don't know the endings to, it's such a great thing when you can transport your audience to a different world, to a different time, to just know not the reality we're living, and to tell a great story. Not only a great story, a great ending, right? Because a lot of these movies, great story, trash ending. There's so many movies where you go and you're like, oh man, this is going to be such a great movie. And then you come out so sour afterwards when you see the ending. So yeah, so that MCU, I give animated or cinematic to MCU. Animated, I'm going to give to DC. I know, Don, you've mentioned the X-Men animated series. You mentioned the Spider-Man animated series. And I think those were just a little bit ahead of my time. So I grew up with Justice League Unlimited. I did catch the I think it ended, the X-Men series ended in 96, right? So I think at that time I was more Power Rangers or Ninja Turtles when around that time. So I didn't see too much of the animated series. I watched it here and there because it was on Fox. I think it was on Fox. And so I think that's what I grew up on, is Justice League Unlimited. And and on top of that, they started coming out with those animated movies, which were, the story were, Flashpoint. That one was real good. Oh man. I'm trying to think about the new ones that they made. The New 52 one, where the Justice League gets together. That one was really good. But just recently, Marvel has come out with the Spider-Verse ones, where they're really great, and no one can fault Sony for doing that. They could fault Sony for all the live action stuff, but not the animated stuff. Sony does great work on the animated stuff. So actually, you know what? I'm not going to give it to DC with their animated stuff. I'm going to make it a tie. So I think they do great, both of them, in the animated department. Including the games, because like you said, Dakota, I don't really play the games, but hearing you talk about them sound like they probably were very amazing. Arkham Knights, and then the Spider-Man ones. Have you ever played the Midnight Suns?
No? Do they have a game?
Yeah, they have a game.
No, I didn't even know about it.
All right, so
when did that one come out? Midnight Suns.
Yeah, I don't know, but I know a lot of people were like raving, like, "Oh man, Midnight Suns was so good," and I think Alex Kosha was talking about it because he started playing it, and he was like, "Oh man, I saw Nico Minoru on there," and kind of just like, I didn't know she was this kind of character, because a lot of us didn't watch Runaways, or is it Runaways? Are they called Runaways? Yeah, Runaways. I don't know why that sounds so wrong. All right, but yeah. So on the games, I'll trust Dakota and say it's even. So I think they both come out with great video games that have good story, and I know you're looking it up right now, the Midnight Suns.
I'm looking at the Midnight Suns right now. I don't know how I missed this one, bro. I never even seen a dude. You can play Ghost Rider. What the heck? What am I doing with my life?
So
and now the Dakota's playing a new game.
Bro, I didn't know. I've never even this one. When did this come out? Midnight Suns came out in 2022. What the hell? How did I miss this? What the frick? December 2nd. Oh my gosh! And I call myself a Marvel fan.
Wait, who was the maker of it? What studios made it?
Let me go back to the ancient texts.
Yeah.
Oh, this is official. Well, it's got good reviews. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. So there's actually I think there was also another one I saw. I don't know if you ever mentioned it. I just forgot what it was. But yeah, so Midnight Suns was one of them. I know you play. Did you play both of the Gotham Knights and Gotham Arkham Asylum?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you played those two, Don?
Yeah, I played them. I didn't play the Suicide Squad game that just came out, but I heard it's trash, so I'm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I didn't jump on it either yet. I've been seeing all these videos pop up, and one's like just comparisons of graphics from the Arkham Asylum game to this one. Oh, it's crazy how bad it is with the new engines that we have on these consoles. Like that game should be crisp, bro.
Yeah.
Nah, it looks terrible. Alone bothered me. I'm like, I've never been the one to say graphics are the most important thing because it comes to story first. But the fact that how are you going to go back in time with graphics?
Yeah, you can't make anything that's cube nowadays. But
yeah. Fire X's game. I've never even heard of the companies that's made the Midnight Suns game. So, hey, I'll definitely check it out. But I do want to say, when it comes to, I think, the best Spider-Man game I ever played, it's called Spider-Man Shadow or Web of Shadows. That, hands down, is the most insane story. Symbiote, the whole thing. It's very similar to the newest Spider-Man game that came out with how Venom is trying to take over the city with all the symbiotes. And you get the black suit and all that stuff, but I'm telling you, that one is insane because they have Wolverine you're fighting in there. You have Black Widow you're fighting in there. I'm trying to think who else. Moon Knight shows up. There's a ton of characters that just make that game so good. If anyone is listening to this that likes Spider-Man games, if you are needing one, you missed that one, go back and buy that game because that is hands down the best ride you'll ever have.
It's called Web of Shadows?
Web of Shadows, Spider-Man Web of Shadows.
For PlayStation.
I believe that was PlayStation 3.
Oh, okay.
PlayStation 3, if I'm not mistaken, and then it would have been Xbox 360. I'm pretty sure Spider-Man.
Oh, it was on Xbox as well. It was on Xbox as well.
Xbox 360, I think.
Okay, cool.
Let me look.
Now, with the newest, what is it? The Spider-Man game. Did it only stick to the Spider-Verse people? Like Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy?
Yeah, so it falls into a storyline that has Miles Morales. There hasn't been any... It's funny because in the last game, this is spoilers, okay? Anybody who hasn't played the game yet, if you don't want to know. In the last game, you play both Miles and Peter. And there's certain missions where you're finding these little spider robots that are all over the city. When you collect them all, you have a cool scene where there is a split in dimension, and there's this lady at a bar who's just wiping down the table, and she's like, "Oh, how you doing?" She goes, "Oh, you collected those for me. I'll take those for you." And he's like, "What the heck's going on?" And she goes, "Don't worry, Miguel will explain everything." He's like, "Who's Miguel?" And then it just kind of like phases out. And it's really cool. And he's like, goes back to him and he's like, what the hell was that? And it was cool tie-in with all the movies and everything, but there really isn't much change in dimensions and stuff going on. This universe is very specific, but in the movie, the last one that came out, when they're going through the Spider-Man like headquarters, Peter Parker from the Insomniac games is standing in there as the variant when they're like, we got Spider-Man's, from different video games, and he's just there chilling. Like, it's really cool. So they do have a tie-in with the movie, and now they have a tie-in with the game, but it's nothing at all similar in how story goes at all.
Do they mention who the woman is?
What's that?
Do they mention in the game who that woman is, or can you tell who the woman was? Like, who got this?
So, I can't remember who she was. They didn't really go into detail on anything. And if she said a name, if the name was mentioned, I was so excited of what was happening. I don't even remember the name. I was just like, Miguel, oh, that's crazy. So no, I don't know. But I'll go back and look at the cutscene on YouTube and I can discuss it next week. But yeah, they did a good job with that one.
Okay. You had something to say, Don?
If we really want to talk about old school, games, I'm gonna bring up a game that no one has ever probably heard of and or played, and that's X-Men 2: The Clone Wars on Sega. That was a hard ass game to play.
Oh, was it? What was it? First person? Was it a fighter? What was it?
It was a platformer.
Oh, okay. So like the games that are going on now.
Yep, and you could pick different heroes each time. Beast was like probably the cheatiest character. We could do Beast or that's the one.
Huh.
Man, I spent so many hours just beating that game. And it was back when, if you die, that's where you're starting.
The beginning.
Level.
Oh my
I got
gosh.
so good at the first, I'd probably say 10 levels. I could do it with my eyes closed. That's how amazing. Well, maybe not amazing, but how dedicated I was.
Now, for that game, was it third person or first person?
It was
platformer. So it was scrolling.
Like Mario.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know what. Sorry, I'm kind of noob at game terminology. I didn't know what platformer was. So it was like Mega Man and so side scroll.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay, so
Metroid, all that goodness.
Ah, okay, man.
The good old days.
And how many characters were in that one?
There were like four or five characters. I mean, you actually got a good choice. Like Beast, Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm was a character if I remember right. You got a pretty decent amount of characters to actually play with.
Okay. So before we conclude this, I just want to say a little teaser, or I don't know, through the grapevine. So one of my favorite characters growing up in the X-Men was Cyclops. And I feel like in the movies and, nowadays, he kind of got shafted and got overcasted by Wolverine. I feel like in the animated series, Wolverine, of course, he has his side arc, but I think because people loved Wolverine in the live action and it was Hugh Jackman, I feel like Cyclops he kind of really didn't get his due, right? Because he's like the leader of the X-Men. He's supposed to be strategic. Yeah, his powers at the start aren't amazing, but he becomes an Omega mutant, right? Like, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so does Wolverine become an Omega mutant?
Sorry, one more time.
Sorry, does Wolverine become an Omega mutant?
A mega mutant?
Omega.
Omega. I don't think he does.
Okay.
No. Wolverine is not Omega level at all. Even people like Charles Xavier is technically not an Omega level unit.
Yeah, but
Omega level mutant.
Yeah, but if I'm not mistaken, Cyclops does become one, right?
I don't think Cyclops does. His son, him and Jean Grey's son becomes an Omega level mutant.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he does.
Okay, because I thought in the there was a X-Men New Generation, or whatever, like him and his brother. It's not Havoc. He has another brother, right? Like a half brother.
Cyclops is not Omega level mutant. Correct.
Okay. Okay. So like I forgot like there was one of the animated series that like made him like buff and whatnot because they like heightened his genes and made him very powerful and supposedly it grew him to an Omega mutant. I don't know if it's like a one of kind of thing, but yeah, like I just feel like they never really they did a disservice to him. And so like I was mentioning, supposedly Henry Cavill has been in the talks of playing a character in the MCU. And a lot of people have been, saying, oh, maybe it's going to be Captain Britain because he is British. So, I mean, and he stated to say like, oh yeah, I'd love to play that character. But some people have been saying, oh, maybe he'll be cast as Cyclops. Now, Henry Cavill as Cyclops, I am down for it. He has the look going for him already, right? I think I mean, of course, in the TV series, he's supposed to be a redhead, but, those are a dime a dozen nowadays.
If you're a redhead in comics, you're going to be a black character now. That's kind of how they got rid of it.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, nope. Change it out.
Let's change it to another. What is it? Another. The word escapes me, but another minority, right? So because redheads are a minority, and they're like, oh, to make it another minority, let's just let's do it like this. We'll pick another minority to supplement it because finding redheads, natural redheads. On top of that, because for some reason a lot of these characters are redheads, Jean Grey, Cyclops,
And Lee had a type, brother. God damn.
Mary Jane. Let's go to DC. Iris West and then Wally West. So you see what they did with that in the Flash TV series, the CW. I do like how DC did use Amber Heard and made her redhead, which is nice. Looked fake as hell, but at least they stay true to that. So it's just funny that, I think Henry Cavill can do a really good job as the leader of the X-Men. That would be amazing. It would reignite the Marvel Cinematic Universe because I think we talked about it last week. Like I was like, they need a leader, and nobody has stepped up to be that lead role, right? Because Robert Downey Jr. had big shoes to fill. On top of that, Chris Evans, right? Scarlett Johansson on a side note, but she wasn't really a main character. They always gave her like small story stuff in the movies. So yeah, big shoes to fill. We need to see someone that's very. I lose the words for a lot of adjectives nowadays, but polarizing. I'll go back to polarizing, the word I used last week. They need to be someone polarizing where we need to see them on screen and be like, all right, they're the new boss, right? All right. So anything else you guys want to say on that note?
No, I think that touches base on all of that. Like,
Dakota, what's going on?
My light died again.
Yeah, I know. What's the battery life on that? Like 30 minutes?
Apparently.
All right. So before we end, I just want to get your thoughts on Henry Cavill, possibly Captain Britain or Cyclops. Let's start with you, Don.
Cyclops.
I think you got it right. Like, I think if you put him as Cyclops, he can very much be like the definitive version, right? Like, and that's what we've really been seeing a lot of. Like, we really need someone who can embody a character and just make them like, hey, I want to see more of that character. We saw that with Hugh Jackman for so long. We saw that with Robert Downey Jr. for so long. Chris Evans, like, you really enjoyed seeing that person play that character. With bringing in, stuff like the Fantastic Four, you know, it'll be really interesting seeing if they can create that embodiment character where you're like, I can't see it as anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Like, for instance, like Hugh Jackman's what, like 6'2", and he's playing Wolverine,
Yeah.
who's tiny. But you know what? When you think of Wolverine, you don't be like, oh, that dude's tiny. You're just like Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
That's who it is.
Yeah,
So,
right.
I think he can do a good job of kind of defining that character. We've seen him play a lot of different parts. We know that he's a giant nerd, which means he's going to stay true to the part. Creating a minor character, kind of like Captain Britain, I think wouldn't do justice to bringing in a person of his caliber in.
Yeah. That's very true because like the caliber of who Henry Cavill is, he is, a star, right? A-lister, right? So you want to make sure you put him in a role that he's going to keep coming on, because if you put him in a role where it's just like, okay, I don't know Captain Britain too much, but I know he does a very important role in Secret Wars, if I'm not mistaken. And for him to just be a part of that story without getting him, like I said, Cyclops is a very prominent character in the X-Men. So if you do put Henry Cavill as Cyclops, you're going to get probably 10 years out of him or more, right? Just like you did Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans. I'm gonna keep going back to those two because, they've done so much for the cinematic universe in developing it and making it what it is now. People are gonna look back on the Infinity Saga and just be like, "Yo, we need this magic again." So, with this multiverse saga starting off, they need to do something within the next few years to set in stone what individuals can carry this platform, just like the Infinity Saga. And I feel like they should have done that in the beginning, because they tried to do it, like I said last week, they tried to do it Spider-Man, but you can't do that when you don't own the full rights to it. So yeah, so that's unfortunate. So what are your thoughts, Dakota, on Henry Cavill?
I would be so down for him to be Cyclops. I think that would be an awesome leader for the X-Men. If it's like Don already mentioned, he's a super nerd too. Like my man loves comic books more than most people too. So like to have someone who actually wants to be true to a character and is more than capable of becoming that character, yeah, I think he'd be amazing for Cyclops. I wouldn't care too much about Captain Britain. I really don't care about the British after 1776, so they can stay over there. I'm just saying, Cyclops all the way, for sure. Especially after watching the X-Men series, his role would be awesome to see actually on screen, because what they did to him in the X-Men movies that we have that made it to cinema, my man is just a nerd in the background. Like nobody cares. More than anything, he's just a wimp. Like he's always just complaining and crying. It's like, okay, you're nothing good. To have someone who's actually a leader, that'd be badass. So yeah, I'm all for that.
Yeah, like I think it was X-Men 2 where he was just like Professor Xavier's right-hand man, just like pushing it around.
He's like, I got you, bro. Professor X literally has the little stick. He could literally just do it on his own. But no, here's Cyclops. I thought that was hilarious. I know, granted, he was doing that because they couldn't have Metal in Magneto's prison. But I'm just saying, okay?
On top of that, like he gets like owned by Lady Deathstrike, right? Like,
yeah, bro.
It should have been, he could have done something more. What is it? I don't know, more fitting to his character, because, like I said, I know he's not the strongest person, but he has more range in his character than just shooting optic blasts, right? He could fight. He knows martial arts, right? So he can fight. It's just optic blasts are what he does best. Now of course, he chooses to do long range, but of course he's also a fighter at close range. So Henry Cavill as Cyclops can probably take that character to that level, because you've seen him in The Witcher, right? You've seen him in even in Superman. Like, yeah, Superman has, heat vision, which is kind of like Cyclops, but he, first and foremost, he's fighting, right? So probably he could do a service to that character, which is long needed, that I think,
Oh, absolutely. I'm with you on that too. I mean, even in the movies, man, the whole time, if he's gonna use his power, he's like, or in the comics or in the show, he's
Yeah.
like, damn, I got your ass. So it's like, man, they just nerfed him in so many ways on the cinematic universe that, yeah, they need to give him some screen time with a character or an actor that can give him some justice. So
Yeah, just not only just his powers, but his strategic ability, right? Because he is a leader, so he does have strategy. But not only that, he relies on his team to also give him feedback, right? So he's not the best at everything, but he's a good team leader.
Yeah.
So I hope they do the X-Men right. Like Don mentioned, and what we mentioned last week, with the Fantastic Four, Pedro has some big shoes to fill, and I hope he can fill them, because he's an amazing actor. You've seen him in multiple things. What is it? Din Djarin, is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah. So he plays the Mandalorian. He plays what's his name in the Joel Last of Us. I mean, he has so much range. I hope through lenses that were looking at the original comics, I was disappointed, but kind of like going through it, I feel like if he sticks to what he can do and what he's known to do as an actor, I feel like he could pull it. He could pull it out. So we'll see. I mean, it's gonna be after Deadpool in July, where I hope we get so much more, excitement, right?
Oh, yeah. Some hype.
Yeah. Yep. Some much needed hype, because I love, I just watched X-Men The Last Stand, and it was, it was so cool. Like, oh man, Multiple Man is in this. I didn't know that. So what is it? Marvel Snap has reintroduced me to watching the old movies again, to be like, oh, okay, they were in this movie. I just didn't know them. I didn't know their powers. I didn't know what they could do. So it's nice to see that Marvel Snap is kind of helping us re-love these characters. So.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
All right. So with that, we are going to go into last week's card that we gave high praise to it. I already see Don's face. So we gave decent praise to it. Let's say decent praise to it, because we gave it. What did you give it, Don, in Star-wise, out of 10?
I don't think we gave it stars last week.
Okay.
But I was very high on it. If it was out of 10, I probably was like an 8 when I thought about this card. I thought there were a lot of very interesting things that you could do with the card.
Okay.
One of them did not work out well. So I'll tell you my biggest disappointment of the week.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, here's what we could do. I thought Corvus Glaive, great. You get 1 max energy. You play Havoc behind him, right?
Yes.
You get extra. The problem is that Havoc is actually, after each turn, there's 1 max energy for each turn, right?
Yeah.
So really, he completely counteracts the Corvus Glaive issue almost completely. So.
Okay, so say if you play Corvus Glaive and then you played Havoc. Are you still going up each turn?
No, you stop. So whatever it was that next turn, you play him, right? That next turn, you play him on 3, right? Turn 4, you have 5 energy. You keep 5 energy for the rest of the game.
That doesn't make any sense, though, because Corvus Glaive is giving you 1 max energy, while Havoc gives you 1 less max energy, right? So it should, in turn, like you said, equal out. So it should be going
you should
up.
be able to play the game.
Yeah,
It would.
it should.
But that's not the way the card. And then when you actually read the card of Havoc, right?
yeah.
After each turn, lose 1 max energy, right? So in that case, it doesn't let you gain another one. I thought these 2 cards would work really well together. It turns out they don't. They don't have that same interaction. I was very disappointed when I was playing it, messing around with it. I thought, you know what? Hey, look, here's a chance to actually have Havoc on the field, not feel like he is a detrimental card. Playing him on turn 4 would have been great, right? Because you're like, okay, he's a 2/12, right? I've counteracted his ability. But you can't do that. That's not how the card works.
Huh, that's interesting. I would have thought, it does counteract it, and Dakota's sorry. Was it because of my misclick?
It was just on me, and I was like,
yeah, so I feel like maybe it's not supposed to be like that. Maybe it's a bug. What do you think?
I don't know. Like I test played it. I played it in a couple of games. I'm like, hey, this could be really cool, and it did not work at all. So hopefully they adjust that. That gives Havoc a little bit of actual ability to play.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did not interact the way I was hoping.
Okay. So what other decks have you tried him in, and have you had any success with it?
I have had success with it. So I played the ramp deck with Corvus Glaive, and it worked really well for about a day. A lot of people, I think, didn't realize what the deck was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people were thinking you were a bot, especially on the ladder. And so they'd be snapping like crazy, thinking that you were playing something really stupid. And you got a lot of cubes for doing that.
Okay.
I have played it in a much more consistent, like Black Knight deck. It had moderate success. I don't, to this point, think he has his best deck figured out yet. I think next week with his partner in crime coming in, I think we're going to see probably play. Though I'm definitely less high than I was last.
Okay. Yeah, I think this card is meant to be played with Proxima in the deck, and so I think we have one card short of a combo. So I mean, yeah, he does work with a lot of discard cards, but I feel like Proxima Midnight being that card where like you want it to get discarded, so you don't have any faults in playing this card when she's in your hand. Now, when it's in a Hela deck and you're like, please don't discard Hela, where, of course, 90% of the time, Hela does get discarded. So it's kind of
every time.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, now I have this 1 max energy and my next card I draw is like Blade. So, so it's like, it's kind of terrible right now because we don't have that card that could come from discarding it and then it comes back. I mean, we do have that with what's it's called, the Swarm, which is good. But other than that, I feel like hopefully next week this card will shine better. Now, how about yourself, Dakota? How did you feel using this card, and have you had success with it this week?
Oh boy. Well, when the
Well,
when this card came out, okay, we tried doing some discard action like the OG style, and I jumped on Conquest a lot, just kind of like changed some things out here and there until I was like, okay, this is a little bit more solid. My issue with this card is it doesn't have really any play line that's consistent. It's a Hell Cow and Electro together in one without as big of a stat. And anytime I played it, if I had a Hella down like towards us moving into this deck, I kept getting hit with the one that Don was mentioning. So I was like, all right, let's see if I can join this. And it worked good for a little bit. I enjoyed it. But it was if Hella was out, he always hit her first. It was never like, oh, she's there. Let me throw this out, and I can hit. Oh, cool! I hit Infinite and Magneto. Nope, it was always Hella first, and then somebody else. And it was usually like Magneto or Scar. And I'm like, damn it! It was like my main like, okay, so let's see what else we can do here. And moving into this next week, it's exciting that Proxima Midnight, she's gonna have synergy with this, but my issue with this card is it's still not consistent. You're still going to be in that state of, okay, I could lose any one of these cards in my hand. If you need a card and it doesn't, you don't want it to get discarded, he's not the card to play, man. That's the issue with it. It's all well and good, but you're going to, in my experience, you're going to have more negatives than positives in your game line because it just doesn't seem to work out. It always hits Hella, man. Stop hitting Hella, you bitch.
All right, so to make this card not broken, I want to take your pick your brains, and if we gave it targeted discard, what could it target for it not to be broken?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, because okay, here let me put some. While you guys are thinking about it, let me preface some of this, because the thing that discard lacks a lot of the times where it's bad is it's very roulette style, and I know we have a lot of that with Lockjaw. We have some of that has been changed from discard because Blade has changed to the furthest right card, or furthest right. Yeah, furthest right.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is it? We have Lady Sif, where she's changed to she wasn't changed, but she's always been the highest card. We have Silver Samurai, which is the lowest power card. And then we have, I'm forgetting one, right? Oh, the Sword Girl. Let me go to discard real quick.
You mean Colleen Wing?
Colleen Wing. And she discards the lowest cost card. Now, the reason why I asked the question and stated without being broken, because if we do Corvus Glaive and say, the first thing that came to mind is if he targets the highest cards in your hand, right? So it does have a chance of still hitting Hella, but say now that it's targeted, a lot of your cards are safe. So I feel like, and on top of that, you do want to get rid of a lot of your higher cards because you want to bring them back with Hella, right? So I feel like that would be broken. So my question now is, if you think about it, how can we make this card not only good in a discard deck and not for it to be roulette style? So how can we change it? Thoughts?
See, I'm not sure you can, right? I'm not sure you can change it to being non-roulette, because then it does become broken no matter what, right? I think maybe if you reduced it to discarding one random card, it might make a little more sense. Just because, it's the two cards, right?
Yeah.
Even when you get one down, you're like, oh, here's a second card it's discarding.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always the card that you really need. So like I think that it's fairly balanced in what it's positive versus negative. It's just about figuring out how it fits into a deck. That's going to make sense. And I think with Proxima coming out, I think we're actually going to see a huge change in the sense that we're going to have more like Proxima Midnight, Hell Carrier, Wolverine Swarm decks, where you're going to be like, hey, I don't care what it hits, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to get that extra power if it hits Hell Carrier, or I try to get rid of Hell Carrier for whatever. Or, then I'm going to have a bunch of extra energy to play the cards that are popped out. I think that is going to be the future of the card.
Okay.
I'm not sure that changing it at this point is going to be beneficial when we haven't really figured out what it is exactly that we want.
Okay. How about yourself, Dakota? Do you think of any way you could fix it? Do you think it's fine the way it is, or would you change anything of it?
That's the thing. It's kind of hard because if we start fine tuning this card, then its ability becomes broken. If you're able to make it like, oh, it only targets like your high cards or your low cards, it's taking over a niche that's already filled, and you're adding too many perks to it. Like it just doesn't work well. I mean, unless they like pigeonholed it and was like, oh, this targets your 5 costs or something random. Like, what's the benefit of that? I think that we lose. There's nothing good from changing what it is. The random is part of the game. That's what makes this deck just like everything else. It's either going to have those games that you're doing great. Oh, cool. I didn't hit Hello for the first time ever. Or you're going to get something else. So you have to have that positive, negative effect of every card to keep balance. And otherwise, you're just going to be having something that everyone's going to play for everything at that point, I mean, one thought I had, I'm like, oh, it'd be funny if they could do something where it's targeting something dumb like Vision or something, but no one's ever playing Vision to discard. You know what I mean? Like, that's dumb. That's not going to work. That's just a stupid thought. So for me, it's kind of like, you got to keep it the way it is, really. There's nothing you can do to change that, and they want to keep that randomness for a reason, I think.
Okay, so here's why I think this card works so well in ramp is because we don't get too many ramp style cards, right? And this allows you to discard 2 random cards. Yeah, it's random, but a lot of your cards that you play in ramp work as a one of, right? Because typically when you play ramp, you're playing Sandman ramp. So you're limiting the amount of cards you play, and you're playing 1 card every turn because the other card that gives you 1+ energy is Electro. So if you don't play this card, you're typically playing Electro. So that limits you to playing 1 card a turn. And I feel like this right now was a good what is it? Not counter, but like parallel card to Electro without the downside of playing 1 card a turn. And the reason why they play Wave in the deck is because if you don't draw that Electro, at least you could play something big on 4. But the downside is so can your opponent, right? So this card being what it is right now, it's really good in the sense where it's another Electro, but it doesn't really, it's not cohesive with a ramp deck, right? It's meant to be a discard deck. But another thing is what do you need +1 max energy in a discard deck for? That's the only so that was the only my only gripe about this card is typically you're never really playing even if you get what's it's called Elysium, where you get -1 cost for all your cards. A lot of the ramp cards still play MODOK on 5 and then Apocalypse on 6, right? That doesn't really change with this card. So it's kind of right now, because we don't have Proxima Midnight, it's stuck in that limbo kind of thing where, it could be, it's not really being utilized at its max potential.
Mhm.
Now, what you mentioned before, Don, with it being with a helicarrier, and next week Proxima. Yes, you're gonna want cards that can get discarded, and then you'll play a lot of cards that you like to discard, like Swarm, or what is another card that you can discard and you get benefit out of it? Is there any card that you guys think? Wolverine. What is her name?
X-23.
X-23. So
X3 doesn't really help you there because now you have +2 energy.
maybe
Yeah.
it's
Don't have
good.
anything to
Maybe
do
it's
with
good for one turn. So I don't know. You know, I actually had it used against me, and that one energy killed me for some reason. I don't know what it was. They just had the God hand, right? They discarded. They used Corvus Glaive, and it discarded a X-23, because on top of that, X-23 appears on your field, right? So you still get that one energy, and you played a 1-cost card. So on 4, you could play a 6. So their deck, I don't know, I forgot what it was running, but it ran a 6-cost that was like, oh, you play a 6-cost on 4. It's like playing wave without your opponent getting the wave benefit, right? So it was good for what it was. I mean, I don't know how consistent it was, but I feel like this card is mid at the moment. So
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
yeah. So I know I think I rated it. I don't think we rated it, but I think I had high expectations of it because you guys did. So I kind of went on your train. I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, this is gonna be good. But I think it's really gonna shine this week, and the reason being is we'll talk about this week's coming card is Proxima Midnight. So I wanna go ahead and read it first. So the card is a 4 energy, 7 power. When this is discarded, jump to your lowest power location that isn't full, which is nice because it's not stopped. Say if you fill a lane and it has the least amount of power, it's not just going to not play itself. So that's good to know. So no matter what, if there's an open spot, Proxima Midnight will get played. So I want to go ahead and jump into your thoughts on this. What kind of decks you want to put her in? So let's start with you, Dakota.
Hell yeah. So my first thought is I want to do something similar with the ramp that we're kind of running. Being that you're going to be having Glaive, it'd be cool to have this in hand. I'd be fine with her jumping somewhere. A little extra power on the board isn't terrible. If not that style, going to just OG discard is pretty cool too. I mean, you have Meek jumping around after you hit this card. You can get some extra power going that way. Or if you want to do the OG, baby, get on some of that Ghost Rider action, that'd be cool too, because you throw in Black Cat, you got this card there too. You're going to be able to get some power out pretty quickly just by playing the engine that it is. And you got Hell at the end too, so you don't get a chance to hit all your cards. You can do that with a little MODOK. Yeah, I think this one has some good potential. I think it might help with Glaive the most. I think that's kind of the key to making this card have a little bit more playability is going to be the pair. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this moves.
Yeah, I think I'm going a little bit different of a direction with. So really, I want to use or free to play. I want to use this card with my. You're killing me today. I kind of already talked about this, right? So I want to use it in the Hella deck, a Helicarrier. I want Apocalypse. I want Morbius Collector. I just want to get stuff on the field, right? Throw a Swarm. I want to make sure that I'm discarding stuff that's going to pop down. But if I could hit that Helicarrier, I want to make sure to clear that Helicarrier out of there. So I have a bunch of random cards and the energy to play with it. But I also get that free play of Proxima Midnight.
Mm-hmm.
That's really where I'm aiming for. I also think now that we kind of have the whole Black Order together, it would be interesting trying to figure out a Thanos Black Order deck. I'm thinking about messing around with that a little bit as well.
Oh, okay.
Because then you're going to see, okay, well, maybe I can use that ramp a different way Maybe it's a couple of one costs that I don't really have to worry about. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting now that we have that whole Black Order together to go that route.
Okay, I will say that putting this in a Thanos deck, I know we get a lot of the stones, and the stones draw cards. They took the draw away from the Soul Stone. You don't draw with the Power Stone. Is there another card? Yeah, I think those are the only two that you don't draw cards. So I feel like Black Swan, being the way she is, like, you have to have some draw power to utilize her effect. And if it's not bounce, because I saw a lot of decks utilize Black Swan in bounce. Now, creating a Black Order deck that has Proxima Midnight in it, I feel like it would be interesting to see, and I want to see your build, but I feel like it's not going to be as cohesive as, say, because even Cole being there sometimes gets clunky, right? Because Cole is a 4 power or 4 cost, 10 power, and sometimes you want to play a Stone and Kyera. And because you know that they have Shang-Chi, and if you play your Cole down, they're going to Shang-Chi your Cole, and Kyera can't protect it. So it's a lot of I would love for the Black Order to work, just because synergistic wise and story wise it'd be amazing. So hopefully it does, because say if you the whole thing about Thanos deck is to try and get the stones out and then power up Thanos to 20 most of the time. Like I mean, that was his premise, right? But a lot of the times you don't do that. You use the stones as a drawing power, and you play stronger cards that are stronger than Thanos. I mean, Cull is just as good as a Thanos, and he's a 4 cost, right? So that's why a lot of people choose to, but he can't get protected by Kyera. Mm-hmm. So seeing this Proxima Midnight, I'd probably try her mostly in discard. Not OG discard. Maybe a collector discard. You know, because then you could throw in Swarm in there, benefit from those. You could throw Helicarrier in there, benefit from that. Maybe I will try the Wolverine and X-23 thing. Just, you know, probably get shit on, but try that out for a little bit. Just things that actually want to be discarded, right? Because the thing about playing a Hela deck is, like I said, a lot of times Hela does get discarded, and on at that point, you know, people just leave, right? Yep. Or you can do the hero play and run both Hela and Ghost Rider, and if your Hela gets discarded, then you play the Ghost Rider, hoping for the Hela to come back. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you do have a better chance because you're not discarding as much in those types of decks. Mm-hmm. So, if your Hela does get discarded, it's probably like a 50% chance, because typically once you discard Hela, you're not discarding anything else, because you're like, no, I need to keep all this stuff. So, because the more you discard, the less of a chance your Ghost Rider will pull Hela. So, I don't know. I think Proxima Midnight is cool, because if it's discarded, it doesn't end up in your discard pile. It ends up on the field. So, the only thing I'm kind of worried about is, what if you have two of the same low ones, right? What if it's 0-0? Does it jump to just a random one? If I think that's what it's going to do. And I don't think you control that in any way. Also, it also says jumps to your lowest power location, right? So what if, this would suck, you get that location where whoever has the least amount wins here, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, or say you
bar
have
with no name or whatever. No, is that what that is?
No. Bar with no name. sends back to your hand. What's the other one like?
What about Rickety Bridge? That would be another one.
That would be
great for
yeah, Rickety Bridge, or the hot location right now where you get +1 energy every turn if there's no card played there. So I mean, I could see those being like, oh, dude, I don't want to discard this card, and
domain or whatever. Although would that matter because it's not technically you playing it?
Yeah, Death's Domain would be perfect.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, so it would be weird to see how this card works in those types of locations. And say if you did this last turn, or you discarded it last turn on turn 6, and it ends up on Rickety Bridge. Does it get destroyed? Is it at the end of the game? I think it would get destroyed, but that's just a thought. So it's gonna be really cool because it's a free 4/7 if you discard it. And it's kind of like what's her name, Black Cat, where she's discarded for free. You don't have to play anything, and she could be brought back by either Ghost Rider or Hela. So it's just like an extra card you could discard. So without having draw power, I feel like this would probably be Strongman would probably be a good card in this deck as well, because if you're playing Corvus Glaive and this card, you're probably not going to have a hand, right? So unless you're playing like Swarm. So sorry,
you could clear up
yeah. So what were you saying?
You were saying Strongman with Swarm, but Swarm you could play the next turn.
Yeah,
you could put them all out there and still have Strongman be a
yeah. So another thing I was thinking of is, say you have 2 0 locations, right? Now your opponent plays a hood where you're winning that location on their side, right? Does it go to the location where you're not winning, or because it just says the lowest power location? So I wonder if that affects it at all, right? You still have 0, but you're winning because they have a negative card on their side. I wonder if that affects this when it gets discarded at all. That would be interesting to see how that plays out. Yeah, because if you're winning that location, do they want this as a win more card, or is it gonna constantly go to the location that's even with the opponent or the lowest power, right? So interesting to think of. Any additional decks that you guys feel you want to try out with this one? Like,
not really. I think those are the two that I'm going to push most. I think I do want to mess around, see if I can figure out a way to get this whole, Black Order deck to work. But primarily, I'm going to be focusing in on that, like, free discard everything out there, try to get a bunch of extra cards to play on the last turn.
Okay. All right. So last thing I want to end this with. I want to hear your predictions. How many keys? Let's start with you, Dakota.
I have gotten very, very lucky.
Okay.
I have been first key polls 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
That means this week it's going to take me 8 keys. Guaranteed.
All right. So 8 keys for Don. How about you, Dakota?
I'm thinking I'm feeling lucky. I think 2, and then I'll have it.
I wouldn't be opposed to 1, but I think I'm gonna get it in 3. So.
Oh. Keep it out there, Ricky Bobby.
And for everyone out there, just so you know, like every Tuesday at 11 o'clock, we all sit there together and we play a little game. Okay. And so we sit there and we all press it at the same time. We flip our cards over, our phones over, and literally we're like, okay, How many of us do you think got it? 1, 3, or none? And we are always wrong. But you know what? If you have people you play Snap with, this is a fun game to play.
It's a side snap. So hopefully, we get it in under 2 each of us. I know I'm going to be buying the card already, but I do want the variant. And let me actually pull this up real quick on what cards are going to be with this spotlight, just so we could give our 2 cents on the spotlight for this week. So give me a moment to look that up. And it's going to be Proxima Midnight, MODOK, and Dakin. And Dakin actually has one. Okay, so I'm going to show this right now so you guys can see it. Dakin has this really cool variant there.
Click on it. Oh, yeah, that one's dope. Is that on the spotlight?
Yeah, that's going to be a spotlight one.
Ah.
Damn it. You sound disappointed. Oh, wait. So, okay. First, how many keys do you have right now?
3.
Oh, okay.
Oh, God. It's like I just showed you I have 2 credit score. Oh, that's okay. That's all right. Yeah, no.
You also have 3? Now, how many caches do you guys have not opened? Go ahead and give that a look-see real quick.
65.
Okay.
I have like 70.
Okay. So I can guarantee you guys that you guys can get 4. Okay. Also, another question. How far are you away from a key?
17.
Oh, okay. So that's not bad. Yeah, yourself.
No, it's not terrible.
Yourself, Don?
I am 90.
Okay. So I can guarantee you if you do open oh yeah. So one more, before I guarantee anything.
No, I'm ready, please.
How much credits do you have at the moment, Dakota?
4,940.
Okay, Don?
Not enough.
I will say, Dakota, you could get there one split already. Don, you how many credits do you have?
I have 1,000.
Okay. So I feel like if you open half of your caches, you would get that 4th key. I mean, if you needed it, that's the thing. I know Don is more frugal than we are, and he's a porpoise. We're like manatees. So although I will say I have been very porpoise-like this month. Even though it is the shortest month of the year.
I said, I'm not spending anything this month because it's only a couple of days.
So I have been very porpoise-like this month, and I've only, I think I got the season pass, the Iron Heart bundle, and there was one more bundle I got that I got for the credits. I just have to see the variant that is next, the Mystique one. So I got this. I'll show you guys right here. The Mystique, the Oscar Vega variant. It came with credits, I believe. And so
Here, I didn't buy it. I'll show you what it is.
Okay. So it came with the Oscar Vega Mystique variant, and then it also came with credits and gold.
It's gone.
Oh, it's gone. Okay, yeah. So it came with credits and gold. So the only reason I bought it was I'm gonna show you guys right here. Oh wait, you can't see, but I did. I'm going to count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 splits on Iron Man. Oh, yeah, 8. 10. I did 10. I did 10 splits on Iron Man because I wanted, first of all, I wanted a gold one. So you guys can see this. I have the ultimate variant. I got it to gold. This was my first gold variant of it. And it's a gold finish, but it has the white tone flare. Now, I split Professor X and got this beautiful variant. This is the Pandart variant with the gold finish and gold crackle flare. I'm still thinking if I should upgrade this one more time to Ultra, just because his X is red. So I don't know if I want to match the border with the X on his name. But I kind of got very jealous of this one. And I was like, you know what? I think my Iron Man deserves a crackle effect. So it took me 2 more tries. And then I got this Iron Man gold finish with a white crackle. And I upgraded it all the way to, what is this? The red border. I don't know what it's called. The red border. So it matches his name. The gold crackle matches the gold border or background matches the gold in his name. And the white crackle matches the hexagons.
Yeah, it looks badass.
So this is probably my most God split card ever. Next to this one. So I will say I did get a random random gold, and it was this
that
one.
looks awesome.
So it was the Venomized Scorpion variant, and I got the green crackle flare on it. And the reason why I just upgraded it to the gold border, or I call it the orange border because I love orange, but I upgraded it to the orange border because there's some orange on the outline of his name. If you notice, like his name is green, but I feel like there's like yellow tints on the outline of his name. So I don't know. This is just all aesthetic, right? So, but you know, I always want people to be like, they use the emotes to be like, ooh, it's a nice card.
Oh yeah, dude. Now you mentioned that, actually, the last couple of games I've been doing, people have been hearting or doing like the star eyes on my variants lately. And I'm like, oh, okay, thank you very much.
Like, I worked hard for that. Okay, before we end, give me your best split. I want to know.
Yeah, bro. Let me see.
That's
Like your grail of a split that you got, right? Like, or doesn't have to be like your grail. It's just like something you got and you're like, I wasn't expecting this, but this is probably my best split I've ever done.
Let's see here.
So, yeah, go ahead and take some time.
I got an inked death that I wasn't expecting. Oh wait, hang on, hold up. There it is. It's the red.
Okay, so it's inked. Oh, okay, but that's the base ink death with a red crackle flare. Okay, that's pretty nice.
I think that's probably my best one.
I think the base card death is probably that one is probably one of the best base cards out there.
I did get the inked Iron Man with
that green crackle. Okay, so you got is it Kai variant, or what variant does that say at the top?
Kale variant.
Oh, Kale? K-A-L-E?
Kale. K-A-E-L. How do you say that? Kale?
Oh, Kyle. Okay, yeah.
Kyle.
Kyle.
I got Kyle.
Kyle?
I got Kyle.
So, yeah, that so it's an ink variant with green crackle, Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. You find any, Don?
Oh man, I don't have anything that I feel is like absolutely great to show off. Yeah,
Well,
I know
okay.
it's fairly disappointing, but I don't have anything that's just like, oh man, that's absolutely amazing.
Okay. What
I
variant
should
is
probably
it?
come up with a better way to upgrade my cards. I'm just like doop 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 doop.
Okay, but have you guys been upgrading everything to uncommon? At least.
Everything up
Have
to,
been-
do you say to infinite? What did you
No,
say?
to uncommon. Like it's a green border. Every time you get a new card, you upgrade it to the green border.
I haven't. No, I've been leaving a lot that I don't really play, or I'll leave it gray until I get enough to then just do the whole thing on it
The thing
because
is,
you get more.
like I said, if you upgrade always to the green, you're getting the most bang for your credits because you upgrade the first time, it's only 25 for one level. When you upgrade it after that, it's 50 per level. So it's like half off. So just a thought. I mean, you could get that 17 right away if you upgrade all your great cards.
Oh yeah, you're not wrong about that. I might be doing some upgrades. But, no.
So what was the one that you were going to say, Don?
Sorry, I got nothing.
All right.
I got nothing.
Like I said, out
I'm
of
just a porpoise over here, kind of swimming through the harbor, just picking off whatever hot dogs people drop in the water. Just like that's how I'm living my life right now.
yeah,
Hot dogs.
Like, is that a hot dog?
Yeah, Don is the porpoise out of us. He keeps us grounded, and it doesn't stop him from being one of the better players. So,
Yep, 100%.
I mean, that's what it is, man. It's just like, yeah, you can drop money, but gameplay is gameplay, and Don proves that, man. So, on that, I will bid you guys adieu until next week. And we will see you guys in the next episode. So I hope you guys have a great night.
Thanks for watching, y'all. Subscribe, like, all that goodness. Follow Instagram.
Yes, Dakota will start posting memes on there.
I've been working on them. I got some hopefully coming out this week, so we'll be more active.